She's April.
And she's Molly.
And we are
the Book Besties. Why did you rush the end?
You had a bucket full of rocks you hid from me.
I will bury you in my garden.
Not cool! Leave the little Antichrist alone. He just wants some music.
No.
He's gonna hide under your bed, but he's also gonna do your laundry.
Fuck, Molly, what is wrong with us?
I want to meet the abominable snow person.
I feel like this conversation has not developed organically. I don't know if we should do that again or just leave it.
Nope. New intro. We're fucking with each other.
I do think at some point we could just reuse intros we've already done, but for some reason I get so excited every time we do it that I like...
It's like a primer. I like it.
Yeah, I don't know.
I need it.
So our new couch arrived today.
Finally?
We have been couchless for 2 months because we almost moved to Ohio.
Right.
And Tom decided...
You know, as one does, accidentally moving.
Right. And Tom had decided that the old couch was in his way, doing
obviously.
Well, the boys had, like, the couch we had before was a reclining couch, which we have a new reclining couch, but that one, the boys reclined it back too far and actually put a hole in the wall. So Tom had to repair the hole in the wall. So instead of being like a normal person and realizing that like we would not have a couch until we moved to Ohio, he just got rid of the couch so he could repair the wall. Not move the couch, just got rid of it. So
relocated it.
We've not to the trash, Molly. He threw it out.
Were you due a new couch? Like, was it an old one?
It was falling apart because my husband doesn't believe in warranties, and so my kids broke it. Like,
he doesn't believe in warranties.
He doesn't, but
it's a scam.
I convinced him this time that we needed a warranty for both the new chair and the new couch. My kids are rough on things, and it's not.
Boys are rough in general,
right? And that's what I was gonna say. It's not because we're not raising them to be like respectful of like property. It's just that like. They're really, really rough. Like, that's just who they are as humans. And so, yeah, they broke it.
I want to be clear, it's not a violent rough. They
no.
play hard.
Oh, no. They just,
play hard.
They jump on the couch and they, like, you know, sword fight with each other, lightsaber, like, you know. I mean, they're boys. Like,
boys.
It's boys. And so... Yeah, the couch was, the old one was pretty cheap, and
it was feeling better on your back? Because I know you haven't been feeling the best.
Well, so I have issues with my hips where I have, like, bursitis flare-ups in my hips. Mm-hmm. And so the new couch needs to be, like, sunk in. Like, it needs somebody to sit in it for a while. So I'm letting Tom do that, and I'm going to sit in the chair that we've had for about a month.
The hardcore boys go on it. Let them just little jungle gym it a little bit. Floor is lava, right? Floor is lava.
Fuck that. We don't need to break it. We just need to break it in. So I've been sitting in the...
There's got to be a fine line between breaking it in and breaking it.
Well, we have not discovered that in our household. So I'm just going to sit in the chair for a while because it elevates my hips, right? But like, I've been taking a steroid that my doctor put me on. First of all, my doctor mansplained to me that the issue was not my hip. The issue was the muscular tissue around the hip area. And I was like, you motherfucker.
You've got to be fucking kidding me. You're telling me how my pain feels.
Well, he's like, your hip bone is on this part of your leg, and this isn't really the hip. This is the ligaments and muscle. I'm like, you know what? I don't fucking care. Just give me the medicine to make it better.
Make it fucking stop.
He put me on a steroid, and the first day that I took the steroid, we actually took the boys to the movie theater, and I went pee 4 times in the movie. And I texted Nurse Katie, and I was like, do steroids make you pee a lot? She goes, yep. And then I was like, okay, great. And I was like, do they also make you feel like your heart is palpitating like really fast? And she's like, yep. That's roid rage. And I was like, why would anybody willingly do this to themselves? So like now I'm almost finished with it. I have 3 days left of pills. So like when this episode comes out, I'll have just finished. And like my muscles are sore because like I guess that's what steroids does. It like builds you up and breaks you down. And like, I don't know why anybody would choose this life.
I don't know. I'm allergic to them. Every time a doctor tries to give them to me, I tell them like, my old rheumatologist would be like, this is so stupid. Anytime you start a new medication, like infusion-wise, they have to give you a high dose of Benadryl, and they usually give you a high dose of steroids with it to like help your body calm down, because your body's the reason you're doing these infusions is your body's fucked.
Right.
So they give you all these meds together, and every time I go, I can't take the steroid. The steroid makes me have hives. I've had like a bad reaction to it. And they're like, well, that's not all steroids. Okay. So I argue with the doctor for a little bit. They usually win the argument because I'm tired of doing it. Then I end up having a reaction in office.
Yeah. Because
I fucking told them.
Right.
And every time they're always shocked going, we thought the Benadryl would counteract it.
And you're like, I told you, motherfuckers.
It wasn't going to counteract.
I actually told Katie this. So I take a medication that has a generic brand, and no insurance company wants to pay for the name brand because the generic brand has been essentially proven to be exactly the same.
Right.
And so I actually pay a significant amount of money because I'm allergic to the generic brand. And I've had 3 different medical professionals, a doctor, and 2 pharmacists tell me that there is absolutely no way that I'm allergic to this. I told Katie this a few days ago, and she was like, oh yeah, I've had patients that have that problem with that medicine. And I'm like, why did they make me feel like I was crazy?
Because they are being lazy and they don't want to do the work to see the difference.
I get migraines, so I can't take the generic brand. So we have to pay a shit ton of money for my medication.
I hate that.
And it's like a life-sustaining one. Like if I don't take it, it would be very bad for me. So
I've had meds like that. The way rheumatology works and RA and lupus and all those, most insurances won't let you take one medication without trying another one first. So you literally have to go through trial by error with meds with a lot of insurances to get to the med you actually want.
Yeah. I think Katie talked to us about that when she came on for My Sister's Keeper as well.
Yeah.
With the cancer.
This is not a health podcast. If you're just joining us for the first time ever, this is a book podcast.
And today we're going to talk about, what book are we talking about?
The House in the Cerulean Sea.
The House in the Cerulean Sea!
I am so obsessed. I painted
by TJ Klune.
Blue. I am obsessed with this book. It is.
So, first of all, shout out to your friend Leslie.
Oh, Leslie, we love you so.
So,
hope you're feeling better. We miss you.
Oh, is she not feeling well?
She's been having some surgeries. I'll talk to you about it later.
Well, feel better, Leslie. So she suggested this book, and holy shit, I'm so glad she did.
Oh my God, it's so good. Piper finished it in 24 hours.
Really?
I do this thing if a book's appropriate, like when we did
Cats and Hammer?
First Chessie book.
Eliza and her Monster.
Eliza. I let them read that after, but we take turns. They take turns, off and on. Well, it's Liv's turn next, but she was in the middle of a book. So I told Piper, I go, you can start it, but you have 48 hours because I know your sister will be done with her book by then.
Right.
And then you're handing it over. And Piper took it as a challenge. So Piper Addison demolished it.
I have a few
books. It was her new favorite. It's her new favorite book.
Yeah. I have a few books that I finished in a day. This was definitely not one of them because I was listening to the audiobook, and also it's almost 400 pages, but props to you, Piper. But I have to say, I know we're going to talk about my Goodreads rating and we're going to talk about my feelings on this book, but Molly, this might be one of my favorite we've covered for pod.
Ever.
Same. Yeah.
Ever.
And I mean,
ever. TJ Klune, if you're hearing us, my friend, we have lots of thoughts and ideas, and I'm going to talk about them, and we would love to talk to you about them.
Yeah.
Talk to you about all the things.
Yeah. How
about a synopsis, and we'll get into questions.
Okay. I'm ready. Give it to me,
because we're ready. Matthew listened to half this book with me when we had to go pick the girls up, and he doesn't want spoilers. He has deemed it a spoiler-free book. He's going to finish the audiobook. It's the first book my husband's wanted to finish in a long time.
It's a great audiobook, too.
It's so good. Minus one thing, and I'm going to get to it.
Okay.
I'm going to get to it.
Give us the synopsis, girl.
Linus Baker likes to follow the rules. He has a job working for DICOM, or as it's also known as Department of in charge of magical youth, and he likes helping the magical children. One day, he is tasked by very upper management to spend a month at a top secret orphanage. From the moment he sees the sea, his life starts to change. Let's talk about this book and why bursting your bubble is okay.
Also, let's talk about the shelf appeal of this cover.
It is beautiful.
Like, this is one that, like, this has shelf appeal. This would be front facing in my library. It was actually in an LGBTQ display at Barnes and Noble when I bought it.
I don't want to look at the way the font is for each chapter. Look how pretty that is. Like, it's a beautiful book.
It's just really cool.
Okay.
And there are, if you do listen to the audiobook, it's worth just looking at the physical book because there are like letters and things, and so you can see the format. But
it's so good.
It's so good.
It's okay, so good.
Let's actually talk about it. Like, we could just keep saying it's so good for an hour, but like that's not what the people are here for, Molly.
So, first question. This book, in my opinion, is an instant classic.
Yeah.
We're seeing it all over the socials, and it's a great story.
Yeah.
How do you classify this in a library? Fantasy, new adult, middle grade? Where is librarian April putting it?
I hate this question. So this...
I knew you were going to hate it. That's why I kind of put it on here, because I needed to know where it goes.
I hate this question. To me, this is not YA or middle grade. You can definitely read it and understand it and comprehend it, but it's adult fiction.
You think so?
I think so. And mostly because the main character is an adult, and
there is cussing. I will say that. But
well, I mean, there's worse than YA. But no, to me, this is adult novel. But here's the thing. Most libraries are not genreified, and so it would just go in fiction. But if I were to put it in a genre category, I would put it in fantasy because of the magic and the magical creatures. And so that's where I would put it. It honestly reminds me of like a really interesting D&D campaign. Like,
oh my God, yes.
And so, yes, this is a good one. I actually found it on a display, in a Pride Month display at Barnes and Noble.
Really?
And I didn't even know it was LGBTQ. And
it's so subtle.
It's so subtle. And the interesting thing about this, and I think we talked about this when we read The Guncle, was that we had the other two Pride Month books we had chosen were romance novels. Mm-hmm. And I had made the comment that it's important that we read LGBTQ books that aren't necessarily romance, that are just like the character happens to be gay. Because
there is romance, but there isn't. It's not the primary focus.
Right. And I didn't even know. And that was just like a lovely little surprise for me. I mean, so I would put it in fantasy. I would not put it in romance. It is not a romance novel. It's a fantasy novel. And
I'd say YA fantasy, or like new adult fantasy, not adult.
I don't think you're going to get either of those.
Because if I don't think I could ever get anybody my mother's age group to read this.
I think it appeals to like the bookstagrammers and book talkers, which are mostly like our age 30s, and younger.
20s, yeah.
But I still don't think it's new adult. I really just see fiction and fantasy particularly. I mean, Linus is 40, so he's my age, which is not new adult. Like, no. I'm not a new adult. I'm pretty adult.
He's got a spare tire. He ain't ashamed to say it.
Yeah. Yeah. So I would say fantasy if we're going to put it in a genre. But that doesn't mean that this isn't a book that can appeal to a younger audience. I would definitely.
My 11-year-old's loving it already.
I would definitely agree. I would definitely agree that like it has a younger appeal. But that's the same thing as like books that have an older appeal. Like, for example, John Green, who we're going to cover next week, like his books are YA, but they appeal to all ages. So,
like if this was a TV show, and I want to talk about that later, but if this was a TV show, this would be one that is first thing on primetime so the whole family can watch it.
I don't think you could have it at 8:00. I would say 9.
You think so?
Yeah.
Okay, we'll get into that when we get deeper in, but let's go to the next question. When we first meet Linus, we see right away he is compassionate to these magical children.
Right.
And seems to have a heart bigger than his coworkers.
Mm-hmm.
When he makes it back to the office, you can see he literally and figuratively doesn't fit in.
Right.
He is living a basic life.
Mm-hmm.
I have a couple like add-ons to this question. Do you find him to be a relatable main character?
I think he is a relatable main character, and I think that TJ Klune did a really good job of making him the everyman, but also the outside of the everyman. So he's the everyman that we all want to relate to. Like, we want to be compassionate and caring, and we want to hope for a better world. But in the society in which Linus lives, he is outside of that norm.
Yeah, he's definitely an outcast.
Right. And in some ways, his character reminds me of, legitly of somebody who's worked for CPS for a really long time and has seen all the things and just has to shut their mind off. Like, why would I follow up on what happened to them after I've passed them off to the next person? Like,
because
that's not my job. Right.
I'm given a number and I move on.
And you have to have that sort of separation or you won't survive in a business like that. I actually had a roommate for a year who was an investigator for CPS. And like, that's all she did. She went out, she would investigate, and then she'd pass it off to whatever.
The next person.
And she never followed up because she couldn't. Like, that needed to be compartmentalized.
Because if you hold on to every kid in a bad situation, it'll break you.
Right.
It'll break you. I mean, the same with teachers. Teachers know when they have students that have been abused. Teacher knows when they have a student that doesn't have clean water at home.
Yeah.
Or, isn't food at the house. They can tell a difference in the child that is struggling and not. That's when you have to do your job, help the child in the professional setting you're in, and move on. And I think that's one of the great things about Linus is his change in this book.
Right.
He goes from being a cog in the machine to filling himself out. You know what I mean?
Right.
He's finally becoming his full person. Like, does that make sense? Like, he
Absolutely. I think he's definitely changed by the kids on the island. He's definitely changed by them. I do think, I don't know what part of our conversation to bring this up, so I'm just going to do it now.
That's fine.
I was surprised at who was considered a magical creature, or magical person, magical child, particularly on the island, because when I read the back of this book, or actually, I don't even know that I did that. I read Leslie's summary and was like, okay, good, I want this.
I'm in. Yeah.
I was thinking that they were all human children. But interestingly, that's not the case.
I'm going to break down all the kids
a little bit. Okay.
So,
but I do think
we talked about his trajectory. We talked about what do you think of his voice and his tone of this character specifically from TJ Klune? I personally feel like he has a good he knows who this character is. We've seen writers that you can tell they've written a whole book but don't know the characters.
Right.
What do you think?
So are you a fan of Parks and Rec? I know that's my favorite show.
Obsessed with it, yeah.
Okay, so Linus reminds me a lot of Ben Wyatt, especially when Ben comes in for the first time and it's Chris and Ben and they're there to like basically audit the government.
Shut it down. Yeah.
And Leslie is like, I can't believe you're doing this to us. And Ben's like, your government is doing this to you. Like, you have put yourself in this position that we are here. And that's the Linus character at the beginning. He's very much Ben. He's very much, I am here because you are not following the rules. I have a job to do, and I'm going to evaluate to make sure that you're doing the things that you need to do.
And then he eventually turned,
The Linus at the end of the book is the Ben that marries Leslie. Like,
it is a growth of...
Right.
It's
he never had any place that he felt at home and that he wanted to stay until he went to the island, and that was the same thing with Ben. And
it comes with Ben. Ben literally was a child who became a mayor, and then his whole world just descended on him.
Right. Linus Baker reminds me a lot of Ben Wyatt.
Yeah, I can see that.
Mm-hmm.
I'm going to skip this one. The department in charge of magical youth, DICOM, is how all persons of magic are tracked and watched. Do you think this is a comment politically?
Mm-hmm.
Do you see it mirroring present-day life at all?
It's definitely a commentary on tracking people. And
yeah.
I kind of got that feeling from the beginning, but really at the end of the book when they start dismantling the system, they were basically registering people that were different. And we've seen that happen historically. I mean, that happened, with the Holocaust. That was what Nazi Germany was doing.
Was literally just trying to erase a whole race.
Right. And, I mean, we still want to register people.
Yep.
Yep. And not everybody wants to do that.
No, and not all right or left are on. Yeah.
I think that it definitely is commentary on other, being someone who is other.
It's a conversation on that for sure.
Right.
It is
but I don't think it's like so politically charged like a book like All American Boys, where it's very obvious that we are making a comment on society.
Subtle, as subtle as the LGBTQ plus, atmosphere, right? It is.
I don't know that I think that's very subtle atmosphere.
I mean,
they literally call their parade Pride. So
I mean in here. This is not. Oh, yeah. This is not a forced LGBTQ plus book.
No, and I don't even think that the commentary was on being LGBTQ.
No, and he's not forcing the whole, separation kid thing. He's just making it a part of the story. Right. And I like that. He's subtle.
And I like that it's done through the lens of children.
Yes.
Because
we're going to get to the kids, I promise. I got one more question.
Well, no, I'm not. This isn't going to derail us. I feel like that it's through the lens of children because I feel like we are quicker to judge adults and put them in categories and want them to stay in their categories than we are for children. Facts. As adults, we don't want to put children in categories. As adults, we put adults in categories. Mm-hmm. Whereas that's what's happening in this book. They are literally saying from birth, from the time we realize that you are different, you will be different.
Yeah.
You will be labeled. You will be found wanting.
And if you don't have family, which your family could get destroyed, we see that happen.
We do see that. And a lot of the family, the parents were deceased or presumed dead.
Because otherness is evil.
Right. It's an orphanage, but no one's actually going to adopt kids there, so it's not really an orphanage.
It's
a home for kids. It's a holding cell, basically. And then they don't get into this, but I want to know what happens after they've grown up and they go out into the world.
Probably what
happens?
They do in our foster care system. They give them $100 and push them out the door and tell them good luck.
I mean, it's a fucking shame.
It is. That's depressing.
But this book is so uplifting. What are we doing? We're not doing it justice.
Writing style and tropes are a big part of our conversation when we cover any book. What did you think about this author and his voice and the use of them in this book?
I want to read his other book, Under the Whispering Door, which is advertised on the back here. Mm-hmm. I liked him. I think his writing is smart. I don't feel like it ever had a bad pace. This book was 400 pages long and it didn't ever feel to me like it was dragging on.
No. No. I was panicking when I was getting to the end and he wasn't back at the island yet. And I had an hour left in the book and he hadn't made his way back to the island. Yeah. I was really panicking.
Yeah. I wasn't surprised that he made it back and there was a happily ever after, but
less than an hour left in my audiobook and he's not there yet. I'm nervous.
I want there to be a sequel to this book and there isn't.
I need more of these. I need to live in this world forever.
I love it. You can write you can write a whole series, and I'm here for it because it's just adorable.
It is.
I don't know how you can make me feel like, oh, the Antichrist is so cute. Like, that's not normal. That's not normal to feel that way.
Speaking of the kids,
uh-huh.
How Linus slowly meets these children on the island feels intentional by the author, but also organic at the same time.
Mm-hmm.
What did you think about this? In the end, we also get a mirroring of this as he returns to the island. So I have a little breakdown that I got from a website, starstats8.com, which I will share in things in the notes that talks about the breakdown of these kids. Lucy, short for Lucifer, is 6 years old, Antichrist. He's got a wicked sense of humor and likes to make threats for fun. Talia is 200 and some odd year old gnome, but who has a beard. And she's an expert gardener that likes to hit people with her shovel and she really, really wants to find out if humans make good fertilizer. Mm-hmm. Every time that little gnome says she wants to brain somebody with her shovel, I laughed out loud audibly.
Yeah.
Audibly. Chauncey is a green anamorphous blob. His eyes are stalks on the top of his head, and his desire, his true dream, is to grow up and be a bellhop one day.
It's adorable.
Fee, which, when you're listening to the audiobook, sounded like F-E or P, and then some points it sounded like a Q sound, so I had to actually look this up. Fee is a forest sprite. She's very, she doesn't trust anybody, and she's very wary, and we learned that she has a very good reason for it.
Mm-hmm.
Sal, a very shy boy that is a anamorph, mm-hmm. and turns into a Pomeranian. But what's special about Sal is if he bites someone, they also turn.
Yes.
And then our last is a wyvern, which is Theodore. And he speaks in chirps, and his favorite thing is treasure, which he hides under the living room couch.
Yeah.
Did I miss anything?
I don't think so.
Let's talk about these kids.
Okay, so where do you want to start?
Let's talk about how Linus met them, mm-hmm. and how it was very intentional by the author, but felt very organic and like a great lead into how the world is on the island. Does that make sense?
Yeah. I know that he met Talia first, and that was a really funny encounter because Talia is not only a gnome, she's a girl gnome, and mm-hmm. apparently they don't exist. So I had to ask Tom that, and apparently that is one like thought in like the D&D world is that gnomes are all men.
I know how he met them in order. I remember the order they were met in. So if you want me to go over that.
I don't know. I feel like this conversation has not developed organically.
Okay.
And I'm concerned.
Okay. Sorry. Let's go back. So you asked Tom about the gnomes.
I asked Tom about the gnomes. And so sometimes that is like a thought process that they're all men. Right. And so that's what makes her unusual. And they actually talk about that in the book. Like, have you ever met a girl gnome? Uh-huh. And Linus is like, no, I haven't. I think she's really funny. I love that she develops a friendship with the mayor who's owns a garden shop. And like, she's just really funny.
The whole conversation between them about like how terrible a certain shovel is.
I know.
And it's super cute.
I did think, like, my issue with Talia was that I kept thinking to myself, who is going to take care of her for 300 years? Because, and this was actually my question with a lot of these kids, because, like, Talia
their lifespans are different.
Their lifespans are different. So, like, Talia's going to not be full grown for another 300 years. So that was weird to me.
Wild.
My favorite of the kids was probably, oh my gosh, I just forgot his name.
Lucy?
No, the dog.
Oh, Sal.
Sal.
That writes poetry.
And the description of Sal that TJ Klune gives the very first time that we meet Sal is he is a large black boy. Mm-hmm. And the description is that he's very big, like very, very large, like intimidatingly large. And the fact that he turns into a tiny ass little Pomeranian dog is such a commentary on not judging someone's character by the way that they look.
Right.
And I just loved him. I loved his fragility. I love the fact that he was in that home because he had been abused and he hadn't really ever had anyone that truly loved him before.
Arthur is a truly solid human being.
Right. And then he has Arthur, who loves him like a father and actually refers to them as his kids. And Linus is like, they're not your kids, they're your wards. And then by the end of the book, he's like, oh, wait, they're actually his children. And Sal finds a family for the first time, and like how beautiful that is.
I mean, Lucy calls them his siblings.
He does.
Lucy calls Sal his brother.
He does. I also really like Chauncey. The idea that his big dream was to be a bellhop. Like, he just wanted to help people.
And he wants to help people. And, like, when they go to town for the first time and he meets the local bellhop.
I know.
And Chauncey is complimenting him and telling the bellhop what a great job he's doing. And the bellhop feels so appreciated.
And he gives him his hat. Oh, my gosh. That was so cute. I just love that Chauncey was told he was a monster and he didn't want to be that. Like, he didn't want to be a monster because he wanted to help people.
Like, he's going to hide under your bed. But he's also going to do your laundry.
He's also going to do your laundry.
I mean, I would adopt
and
him.
Expect a tip.
And expect a tip.
Sorry. Go ahead.
No, go ahead.
I liked Lucy a lot. I thought he was very funny, and I kept referring to him as adorable when I was talking to Tom about him. And I was really struggling with that because, like, he's the Antichrist.
Yeah.
Like,
but, I mean, he didn't choose to be the Antichrist. He was born the Antichrist.
It sort of reminded me of what the hell's the book that we read in season 2?
There's a lot of them.
The one with the Antichrist. Adam, the Antichrist.
Oh, you mean
fuck, Molly. What is wrong with us? Oh my gosh.
Good Omens.
Good Omens, thank you. Yeah, so it sort of reminded me of Good Omens. Like, this kid was born to do this, but, like, that's not necessarily who he was. Although I'm not totally convinced that Lucy wouldn't end up, like, destroying the world someday. It's just really cute for a 7-year-old to go, I will smite you and burn your head! And, like, it's just funny.
Well, Lucy, what's great about Lucy is... And I think this is a comment on, like, mental health and things like that. He talks about these spiders in his brain.
Yeah.
And he talks in the sadness in this child's mind. When he's talking about the things that are in his head and he can't control them, it is very much a comment on mental illness in children, right? We are talking about anxiety, depression, things that children have no control over.
I mean, he has these bad dreams that, like... Yeah,
he could kill the world, destroy the world.
Right, but they manifest themselves physically, so what he's dreaming is actually happening.
When Lucy wakes up from these bad dreams, his first worry is always about others. And it shows how much he wants to be different, right?
That's Arthur's influence. Arthur is telling him, you do not have to be defined by this label. They don't even use the word Antichrist in the house. Like,
no, because
that's not how you have to define yourself. Like, you are Lucy to me. And he shows him love and compassion. And he teaches him, like, philosophers to, like, get him to think outside of, like, the negativity. And, like, he's truly loving that kid where he is. Like, it's a beautiful thing.
And that's what we're supposed to do as parents. We love them for who they are, not who we want them to be.
Right.
My favorite character, I think, is Talia. I don't know if it's because she was, like, our guide meeting these other kids. And Talia and I have a very... She's chaotic. Right? She is chaotic. And I always am drawn to the chaotic. Like,
you are.
She tricked Linus into thinking Theodore would help him find his cat. And then when he paid Theodore, he just vanished.
You know, they never actually settle where that initial button comes from. They never settle it. And Arthur asks him, where'd the button come from?
I think when he passed out on the train tracks, I think Zoe put it in his pocket knowing he was going to need good fortune with Theo.
I don't know if you're right. I was thinking that it was something Arthur did, but we find out later what Arthur's magicalness is.
But also, Arthur didn't even know he had arrived.
Right.
In that first moment, he didn't know Arthur had arrived. Arthur didn't know he had arrived because Lucy was blocking him from seeing it.
Oh, Lucy.
I want to talk about Lucy some more. Music plays a big part in this story from the beginning.
Oh, yeah.
Linus loves records, and he bonds with Lucy over them.
Right.
What did you think of the music choices? I also am going to be putting a playlist, one of many playlists, in the comments. There are fans out there making the playlists on Spotify,
That's
YouTube,
amazing.
all of that, and it is perfect and spectacular.
Well, first of all, the song American Pie is just such a classic, and it's a favorite of mine, even though it goes on for 10 minutes. And the idea of like Lucy's favorite being dead people music.
Dead people
music. It's hilarious to me. Can I divert for a quick second here?
Yeah, of course.
The records in the vintage music really had made it difficult for me to like place a time period on this book.
I think that was intentional, though.
There are so many things that happen that it's like, oh, it's clearly modern day, and then there are other things that happen that it's like, no, this has got to be, decades ago. And so I was really struggling with like a setting,
timeline.
Like when is this taking place? And I know that was probably intentional, but it also infuriates me. So I need answers. I can't with it.
Maybe TJ will come on and talk to us.
I mean, we could put it out there. Manifest that, bitch.
He uses the music to tell the story,
yeah,
right?
For sure.
Like, Somewhere Beyond the Sea, Don't You Wish You Were Here, like, all this music. And Lucy in the record shop the first time, and the guy tries to give Lucy an exorcism, and the shop owner's so mad.
He's like, not cool, man. Not
cool. Leave the little Antichrist alone. He just wants some music.
Oh my gosh.
Piper Point loved, since we're doing Lucy appreciation, she goes, he freaks out and starts talking about having a bird head under his thing and like panics that there's nothing abnormal about it. And I go, Piper, kids hide shit in their rooms all the time that they know they're not supposed to have. She goes, I didn't. I go, you had a bucket full of rocks you hid from me. She goes, oh yeah, I did. So every kid has something that they hide. Lucy's just happens to be a dead bird skull.
I thought the image of him baking while dancing to like the Big Bopper was just like, it was so funny. So funny. The 7-year-old in an apron who's the Antichrist dancing and singing to 50s bop music.
Yeah.
Hilarious.
The imagery, this is the most beautiful book I have ever read.
There's clearly a very beautiful picture painted. And this is something we talked about a lot in July when we were talking about like romance novels and like the show don't tell and write with the 5 senses. This is how you do it right. That's
what I was going to say. Yes.
That is how you write with the senses. I felt like I was on the island with Linus. I felt like I could feel and smell the salt air, and I could see these kids who were just different and so funny, and there was so much life in these words. And we both listened to the audiobook, and the audiobook narrator was so fantastic.
Minus one thing.
Okay.
How do you say gazebo?
Gazebo.
How did the narrator say it?
Gazebo.
That's all I'm going to say.
Yes, that bothered me, the pronunciation of gazebo.
No, you don't understand. It bothered me immensely.
And it happens so much that it's not like a minor thing. Like gazebo was said like 5 or 6 times. But he was so good. He had clear voice for like all of the characters. And
talk like this.
Oh my gosh,
like,
it was awesome.
Like an 8-year-old with a missing front tooth. Right? Awesome. That's exactly how he sounded.
Yeah. I really liked the narrator. I can get past gazebo because that was a really good narrator. We've listened to some bad narrators, Molly.
We have.
This one is not it.
So by chapter 6, we don't know much about Arthur yet, but he has the respect of some very powerful children. Could this have been a hint to him being more powerful and the reason the kids respected him? Or do you think that he had earned that before they knew the truth about him?
I don't know that they did know the truth about him so much as like, we know that he has to be powerful because that's in his file. I mean, initially in his file, we don't have a lot of information on him. It's just like, he's this guy.
It's super vague.
But then it's like,
super vague.
We think we can trust Lucy with him because of who he is. I guess I just feel like I don't know enough about that type of mythical creature to like
phoenixes. Well, but Phoenix is a bird, right?
Like, how is he a human but a bird?
That's what I want. I don't know how that he transitioned the Phoenix lore into him being a shape-shifting Phoenix.
Yeah, that's where I was really struggling. Like, honestly, I kind of thought maybe he was going to end up being like a god because he was trying to make Lucy better and like Lucy,
or like an angel of some sort.
Yeah, like I thought he would be like an angel and then it would be sort of like good omens and that.
Right.
Him being
I liked
Phoenix,
the twist.
I don't get it.
I liked the twist of him being a Phoenix.
Well, he's a bird.
But he's not a bird.
He's a gay man bird.
I mean, that's one way to be flamboyant.
Lots of feathers. Lots of feathers. Lots of fire.
This is perfect. The love story between Linus and Arthur is subtle and weaved in slowly. What did you think about it?
Adorable. I literally was driving back from Alta, listening to the end of the book when they officially become a couple. And he said something about we should change that about them not being married. And I was like, oh, they're together. It's so cute. I'm literally talking to myself in my car like I'm talking to another person. And I'm just like, oh, it's so cute. They're so cute. My only thing is, as much as I like them together and I'm really glad they ended up together, I almost feel like knowing that the previous investigator who went there also fell for Arthur and then like chose ambition. I kind of felt like, is Arthur manipulating the situation and Linus is really being tricked with his clever bird?
Maybe he's got some like mind juju.
Yeah, like we know he has some weird mind control stuff with as a Phoenix. So did Linus fall in love with him or did it? Right. And so did Linus fall in love with him or is this like Stockholm syndrome?
I want to believe that he tricked the first guy and Linus. I want to believe that Linus is there for pure reasons.
That
Linus fell in love with the kids, right? He loves those children.
Mm-hmm.
And
that was legitimately my only issue with this book besides the audiobook narrator saying gazebo. My only issue was like, was Linus actually in love with Arthur in the end, or was this a manipulation of the Phoenix?
I don't think he would have mentioned marriage. I would hope he's not a predator like that. You know?
I want it to be real because they're really cute and they make good dads for the kids.
When we were talking about Linus, I forgot to ask this question. The knowledge Linus has of magical kids shows us early he cares for them and their well-being well before he meets the children on the island. Mm-hmm. What did you think about the character development? As he had, like, we're learning, he takes the time to study these things. He's not just a guy that comes in, checks on the kids and leaves. Like, he's versed in the magicalness, right?
I think that's I think that's about who Linus is as a person. I don't think it's about the fact that he cares. I think it's about the fact that he doesn't have anything else outside of his job. So right. He makes sure he continuously reads the manual.
And he's the best at his job.
And he makes sure that he's doing what's best. Now, does that mean that he doesn't care about the kids? No. I do think he cares about the kids, but I think he cares about the kids insofar as a medical professional cares about their patient. Right. You have to distance yourself.
Or you'll be sucked in.
Right, because you're going to houses that kids are being mistreated. Like, you have to distance yourself. And also, I feel like he had some
they're dangerous, right? Like, some of these kids have really dangerous...
Linus and Talia straight up would murder him. And
if they had the chance, for sure.
For sure. And I do feel like he also... I think he had some OCD issues.
Same.
And
the pajamas, the bed, the way the house is. Yeah.
Right. And so I think that the OCD was contributing to like the fact that he was obsessively reading the manual and getting to know all the things. It made him very good at his job. It also made him really compassionate because he knew enough about these kids to think of them more than just the label. But I don't think that everybody that has those compulsions to read the manual would have been like Linus. And he's not like that in the beginning. They break him down. Like, they break him down.
Yeah. I want to talk about Zoe. I don't have a note about it, but I want to talk about her for a second. Zoe is
not registered.
Not registered, and she's an island sprite. And how that works is she is the ruler or whatever you want to call it of the island. So to be on the island, you have to have permission from her. Yeah. So she granted Linus access to the island even before he was there.
Right.
It feels like, one, Zoe was omniscient in a way that she knew Linus was going to be good. And two, she has a heavier hand than we're led on, right?
I don't know that she always knew that Linus was going to be good. That Arthur mentions that they decided it was finally time for people to know that she was helping the way that she was. They don't talk about being forced to register since she isn't registered and they know that she's not registered. Like, do they force her to register now? I mean, clearly they're trying to dismantle that system. So no, that's not happening. She's very powerful. She's really good for Fee because she can teach Fee how to harness that power.
Right.
To me, you know who she reminded me of? She reminded me of, and I don't think I'm going to even remember the character's name, but the woman from Harry Potter who marries Lupin.
Oh, you mean Tonks?
Tonks. She reminded me of Tonks.
Oh, I didn't get that vibe.
I got
I'm picturing
a little bit weird.
I was picturing the actress that plays Gamora, Zoe, in...
Oh, I know who you're talking about, and I can't think of her name.
Zoe in the Guardians of the Galaxy.
Right.
Zoe Saldana?
Yeah.
She reminds me of, like, I'm imaging her as, like just the sleek, very, I don't know. Anyway. We've talked about the kids already.
I didn't mean the actress Tonks who played Tonks. I meant, like
the character. Tonks. The character. Got you. Sorry. I want to talk about the kids some more, about their tragic lives. All of these children have terrible history.
Right.
Like, the Fee sat with her dying mother and
turned a bunch of people into trees in the process.
Before she passed out from starvation. Sal was abused and ended up biting someone. Lucy, they're not sure how Lucy came about. They just know his mom's dead. Chauncey was... Satan. Huh?
And his dad is Satan.
His dad is Satan. Chauncey was told he was a monster that lives, like, the same thing as a monster that lives under the bed. So he'd hide under beds. Like, Talia was taken away from her family. Did I remember that right?
Yeah.
And, like, and we never really learned about Theodore, but, like, there is so much trauma here in these kids, right? Like...
Right.
It's intense.
I hate how heavy this episode has gotten because this book is so not heavy.
No, but we're examining all of it. And I'm going to get to the fun stuff. Do you have a favorite scene? Let's move on. Do you have a favorite scene? Like, that brought you the most joy?
So that's a different question, because my favorite scene is actually when Linus sees the basement and realizes what happened to Arthur when he was a kid.
Okay.
I think that moment of like, this is why he's doing better. It's the moment that Linus is finally able to admit his feelings for Arthur, but also like his feelings about what is happening on the island. Mm-hmm. But other than that, like my favorite comical one was probably the very first time he meets Talia in the garden, and he's like, "Oh, this is a great statue," and she's like, "What the fuck, dude? Like, I will bury you in my garden. There's a lot of you. You will fertilize it. It'll be awesome." Like that was like the first introduction to what will be
one of my favorite scenes. My favorite scene is like him slowly meeting the kids. Is gotta be. I have a love-hate with the basement scene.
Yeah.
It felt sad and depressing.
It did, but it felt like a necessary climax as well.
Right.
We knew Arthur reads Linus reads that Arthur is a phoenix, but they don't actually tell us that. We know that he's read the file. We find out in that room when it's unveiled.
Yeah. It's very dramatic.
Also, we didn't talk about this character, but I really like the guy that drives the boat, the what do you call it? The ferry boat. Like the fact that he's not really defending the kids, he just doesn't want the angry mob to cross because they didn't want to pay him. What a nut job.
Oh, he is. And he's like, "It's going to cost you double." And they're all like, "Shut up."
Yeah. He's a hot mess. And it turns out that they didn't even need it because Zoe's car just like goes on water.
I know. A saltwater bridge. That's going to ruin my profits.
Right.
I liked the exploration scenes, like when they went on like a magical.
Oh, yeah.
So there seems to be two climaxes near the end of this book, like major ones.
Mm-hmm.
The moment at the dock where Linus faces down. The moment at the dock, and then when Linus faces down very upper management. Mm-hmm. Do you think both scenes were necessary in this story?
Yes, because I think that the first thing Linus needed to do was confront the people who were actively against the kids. And then he needed to confront upper management who, frankly, the guy that sent him there, I know upper management as a whole sent him, but the guy who sent him there, I think there was a lot of jealousy issues. Like, he wanted to know what Arthur was doing because he probably still had a thing for him.
Right. Maybe Arthur isn't all Phoenix. Maybe he's part Siren. And that's why he can manipulate men that way.
I don't understand how the Phoenix thing works because he's human. And so I don't understand.
Mr. Klune, come tell us so we know.
Like, honestly, that's the only of the magical, like, that was kind of a letdown to me. I wanted him to be something else. A phoenix wasn't it for me.
No.
It wasn't it for me.
No.
And I also was actually surprised because I was kind of thinking, Lucy alludes to this. He talks about how there's magic in Linus.
Yeah.
And I thought, because
they didn't pick at that scab.
I thought that Linus was actually going to be low-key, like, have some power, and that it involved the weather. Because
that would make sense.
Because of the rain that constantly followed him.
What a good catch!
And then, when he was on the island, it was sunny. Well, I do.
He's seeing the ocean for the first time.
I do have a master's degree, so.
In, like, book reading, I know.
But they never did that, and I was kind of disappointed because
Maybe he's saving it for the second one.
Is there going to be a second one? Manifest that shit, too! I want a second book!
It's my second to last book movie.
And I want the Yeti to be there.
We want more! The book ends in an epilogue that fast forwards us in time to the island. Mm-hmm. We see that Arthur and Linus are planning on taking on another kid. What did you think of this as a reader?
I loved it, but I want a sequel. Like, I want more.
I want to meet the Abominable Snow person.
I know. I do. I want the
Abominable Snow kid?
I'm with the Yeti.
Who had cerulean eyes.
I know.
Also, I want to talk TV. Like, I have strong, like, first and foremost, HBO needs to pick this up.
I would like it to be HBO because I actually have that streaming service.
HBO needs to pick this up.
Hashtag not sponsored.
Hashtag not sponsored. We're gonna bring on the guy that does Edward Scissorhands. Tim Burton. We are going to colorize this, but only a little bit. It's going to be mute colors until Linus makes it to the island. Then it's going to be vibrant. Think like
Wizard of Oz?
Yes. But it's going to be more of like a gradual, like the closer he gets to the ocean.
They do that. They do that in Big Fish too.
Of course they do, because it's such a good movie. That is exactly what I thought of.
That movie is amazing. If you've never seen Big Fish, that is one of my all-time favorites.
I'll put it in the notes. It's so good. But that's exactly that's the vibe this book is. Big Fish and Pushing Daisies in this are all in the same universe, and I'm here for it.
Somehow, and I don't know in what capacity, but somehow Neil Gaiman has to be involved.
Well, okay.
This has a Gaiman feel too.
Right, and I'm picturing Neil Patrick Harris as Arthur, and I don't know why.
Ooh, that's a good one.
I think it'd be great. Do you have it, like, off the top of your head, casting?
Well, I do think, like, because I can't not picture Ben Wyatt, I think the actor's name, Adam, can't think of his last name.
Driver? No, not Adam Driver.
Not Adam Driver. So that, like, that would be okay, but he's not big enough. I also think, because I love Big Fish so much, Ewan McGregor.
Adam Scott.
Ewan McGregor would be great too. But again, neither of them are big enough to actually be Linus. So
but see, I get that. I get the vibe you're going for.
But the thing is, we talked, I don't think it needs to be someone that's like more
famous,
flamboyant, like Billy, whatever the fuck is his name. Thank you. Like he's too out there. Like Linus is much more reserved.
Right. He's subtle.
And I don't just mean that like in the fact that he's gay. I mean that he's just like a subtle human. Yeah. And so I can't really give you an answer right now, but I do think Neil Patrick Harris would be a good Arthur.
NPH is life. And I think he would kill this. I mean, if he's not doing one of his, like, 80 million projects.
You know what would be cool? If the guy who played Marshall from How I Met Your Mother played Linus, and then we could all...
Oh, he'd be perfect!
We could all have a fan moment with some fanfic between Marshall and Barney.
Oh my God, that's actually great. I love it. You know, and he's the perfect body type for it.
I know. Perfect. And you can bring on... Allison Hannigan to play Zoe. She would be a good Zoe.
You're just pulling now. Just pulling.
just all of the people from How I Met Your Mother just come and be a part of this project. It'll be fine.
Colby could be the lady in the office that's always yelling at Linus.
Yeah.
Colby Smoot.
Yeah.
That's it. Oh, April Goodreads.
Oh, I gave it a 5 out of 5. I gave this book a 5 out of 5. I keep saying that I don't do that very often.
But then you do it. I lost my notes. But
I gave it a 5 out of 5. My only issue with this was I did not think the Phoenix was the right choice. And so in the end, I don't know. Like, I feel like, did Linus fall in love with them or was he manipulated? I don't know.
Right.
But the Phoenix wasn't it for me. Like, I just feel like that wasn't the creature I would have gone with. I mean, I didn't write this book and have 1 billion people buy it. So props to you, TJ Klune.
Right,
you're
like,
obviously much cooler than me. But yeah,
I'm madly in love. I want to divorce my husband and marry this book.
No. No. I really enjoyed this. Thank you, Leslie, for bringing this to our attention.
Oh,
I mean,
yes, love.
If you're a fan of the pod and you want us to cover a book, we have covered a few books that fans have
email
sent
us at bookbestiespod@gmail.com.
Definitely email us, tag us in social media, DM us. We will cover books that fans like. We're actually going to be covering some other books this We're going to cover one of Chezzy's favorite books. So
I'm pretty stoked about that.
I know, me too.
So next week we got going.
Well, I've got all of the August books next to me, Molly, except the last one. So next week we're doing Turtles All the Way Down by John Green, because John Green every season till he comes on.
John Green every season till he comes on.
This is actually my favorite John Green book, and I have my tabs going, Molly.
John Green every season till he comes on.
And then we're going to do a TikTok Bookstagram favorite. It Ends With Us by Colleen Hoover. And this was my first Colleen Hoover.
It'll be mine too.
And
do you know what I haven't started it yet because I'm still on John Green. Is it all it's cracked up to be?
We will discuss that on the episode, Molly.
Damn it.
Then we're going to, there's actually 5 books this month. So here's the 4th one. The Night Circus by Erin Morgenstern.
August is really busy, y'all.
Yeah.
Like, really busy.
So this book, I have just such a pretty copy of it. Like, it's just so magical, which is great because this book is full of magic. You pick up the physical book of this because it has just really great, like, parts in it. But this book is one that I picked because it's historical fiction and it's historical fantasy, and I'm hoping Molly likes it, but she hasn't read it, and I don't know. I feel a lot of things about it. And then the last book of the month is the Book of Lost Names.
Yeah, that sounds right.
And I don't have a copy of that.
I don't either. I have it on Audible.
Well, that's a Molly
Insert
pick.
picture here.
That's a Molly pick that's historical fiction, so, you know.
We'll see.
We'll see.
We'll see.
Molly has made it her a mission to get me to like historical fiction.
We're going to find out. But I think that's it. I got nothing else for y'all. Till next time, I guess.
Oh, hey, we didn't talk about this, but in August, we actually have a guest coming on.
Oh, shit, yeah.
We have a bookstagrammer coming on. Her name's Alexa.
Cozy Blanket Reads.
At Cozy Blanket Reads. And we're going to be talking about a Good Girl's Guide to Murder, which is one of her favorite reads. And we met her this week to talk about the episode. And guys, I'm so excited. She's really cool.
She is. We're going to have fun.
Really cool.
And she's got a lot of interesting things to say about a lot of different interesting books. So it's going to be a great conversation.
It's going to be great. It's going to be great.
Conversation.
Sorry, I didn't mean to derail you.
That's okay. No, I was just wrapping it up.
You're good.
I'm wrapping it up. We are exactly on the hour mark.
Okay, good.
Minus some change. So we'll see you guys next time.
Bye.
Thank you for joining us on Book Besties. Don't forget to like and subscribe. The views discussed here are those of Molly and April, not those of anyone else. Today's book was The House in the Cerulean Sea by TJ Klune. Your Book Besties are Molly Biggs and April Watkins. Editing by Thomas Watkins, and music is Sleep Sweetly by Brigida. Don't forget to follow the Book Besties on Facebook, Instagram, Twitter, TikTok, and YouTube. If you'd like to contact the Book Besties, please email us at bookbestiespod@gmail.com.